It's Jim and Sydney. We're back with another episode, dealing with the subject of using images and illustrations on your website.
In this one, we'll cover how to configure an image before uploading it to your site.
The term for this is generally known as image optimization. Image optimization is the process of taking an image file and decreasing its file size while minimizing any loss in its quality. This may seem strange and against common logic, but it's best to start with a file size that is larger than the ultimate size desired. Whether it's an image or illustration you've downloaded from the web, or one that is an original graphic of any type that you have generated, save it to your computer in as large a file as reasonable. And make sure to indicate in the file name that it is the original.
As a side note, when saving and naming an image file, only use lowercase letters and numbers with either hyphens or underscores. Avoid using just numbers. Trying to find an image file in the future by a file name containing only numbers could be impossible.
You could have hundreds of image files that you have no way of identifying. Now let's get back to the purpose for saving the larger file size. The reasoning behind having a larger original image file is that it's full of digital information, which provides an enormous amount of detail. If you start with a small file size with limited digital data, the resulting image will be lacking a lot of clarity and definition. Consequently, any editing software you use has less information to manipulate as it compresses the size of the image, casting off even more of the image's digital information. As a result, the larger file size will provide more detail for adjusting the image to more effective settings. It's still the preferable way to go, even though a lot of this information will become extraneous and lost during editing. Another factoid is that you can always make a larger file size image smaller with decent quality. However, the opposite isn't the best way to handle digital images. That is, taking a smaller illustration and trying to enlarge it makes the image more degraded. Taking a small file and enlarging the image dimensions will almost always result in a blurry, low-quality image, referred to as being pixelated. By starting with original files that have large file sizes, you have two distinct possibilities. Either the file image is enormous, or the resolution is very high, larger and/or higher than needed. The first step is to determine the appropriate image dimension. That's the size required to fit properly in the page layout. That's why we have to pay attention to that relationship when preparing images.
Here's a question to start off. What should be the source file size for web use?
For large images used in banners, hero images or full-screen slideshows, we suggest downloading or having the original image size no more than 1 megabyte. And before optimizing, images work best at 300 to 500 kilobytes. Nearly all image editing software has integrated settings to adjust the original file to a more workable size for the web or digital screen viewing. There are loads of free online apps and downloadable software that are very efficient for varying skill levels. By the way, if you like our content, please support us by subscribing and give us a like. And please leave a comment. In the next section, we'll provide a list of apps that can be helpful, but for now, let's get back to the basic concepts before we get ahead of ourselves. To illustrate the effect of adjusting an image file for web use, take a good look at the two images. Both have an image dimension of 500 by 402 pixels and are JPG file formatted. One has a resolution of 144 pixels per inch, with a file size of 64 kilobytes, and the other's resolution is 90 pixels but has a file size of 44 kilobytes. The one that has the lower resolution has been manually enlarged so that there can be a comparison. But here's the point.
Can you tell the difference?
Both look identical, but one has a file size that is 50% larger than the other. If the image editor doesn't have this function to automatically adjust the file for web use, you can do that same thing with just a few keystrokes. And how do you manually configure an image file size? The procedure will vary depending upon the image editor used, but here are some of the steps that should cover the general approach. First, open the utility to modify the image size, and make sure the control for maintaining the proportions is selected. That is when changing either dimension, the ratio between the width and height remains the same, and the image doesn't become distorted. This will preserve the relationship of the width to height, known as the aspect ratio. Next, change the resolution of the image. As with these two images, we modified the resolution from 144 to 90 pixels per inch. The result will be that the figure will shrink from its image dimension of 500 by 402 pixels. With the app that we used, the illustration changed to 312 by 251 pixels. You will notice that the screen size of the image will also adjust quite a bit on your monitor. Then, change the width and height manually in the web page editor back to their original size, or the image dimension that you need. Don't forget to save your file, but remember to make a notation in the new file name so you know what you have done to the image. Something like, blue underscore, suit underscore, man underscore, 90 ppi, JPG would work. The result is a file size that is substantially smaller with the ability to load faster and not contribute to the bloating of your web page. As we constantly stress, our preference is always to have software loaded on our local computer versus being web browser based.
As we promised, here are some of the better free downloads available and one that is web-based, which you may find useful.
The first is GIMP, which stands for New Image Manipulation Program. It's an image editor that has advanced level capabilities for cross-platform use. That means it functions over a multitude of operating systems, including Linux, Mac OS and Windows. Feature-wise, it approaches what some of the expensive software can do. The next is Fodor. It's not a downloadable program, so it goes against our stance on resident software. But for a quick and free utility, it's capable of the basics, and it gives the user, who is hesitant to try photo editing, an easy way to get their feet wet. It's meant to be a simple click utility for Windows and Mac systems, and has a batch feeding function. But it does lack the ability for complex editing as GIMP. Also, it doesn't fit those who want to do really creative stuff, like generating an original illustration from scratch. But Photopass Pro is toward the other end of the range. Strictly for Windows application, it's software that just about can handle most needs, and is a free alternative to the pricey Photoshop. There are a novice and an advanced level to its smart user interface, so the operator can progress as their proficiency and guts increase. Unlike the previous free image editors, Darktable is an app that emulates a photographer's workbench that even includes a light table. It provides beginner to intermediate level for Windows, Mac and Linux as a downloadable. But don't expect it to have the functions of a Photoshop or Photopass Pro. It's a photographer's virtual light table and darkroom. Then there is Apple Photos, a beginner level photo editor for Mac and iOS. But don't anticipate going beyond the basics with it. It's directed to those that are looking for a little bit of an enhancement to their photos, but is strictly directed at the novice. As you can see, not all of these utilities have the same features, ease of use and functionality. If you cannot find one that handles all of your needs, use a couple of editors at the same time on the same image to get an idea of their capabilities.
We've added links to those that are downloadable in the Show More section below.
Thanks for watching, and look for the next episode that deals with how to use whitespace effectively. See you then. To get the entire printed series, click the download link in the description below for our free ebook. Also, don't forget to subscribe and give us a like. We appreciate your support. And please leave a comment. Stay with us to see some of the other episodes in this series. The one on the left is the prior episode, which cover the proper use of images and illustrations. And the one on the right, which deals with other aspects of website building. Thanks for watching.